A lot of price will come later.
Okay, he gave you the thumbs up.
It was a very odd Christmas.
Microphone's on. Call to order. Melanie, please call the roll.
Commissioner Barquette,
Here.
Commissioner Duffy,
Present?
Commissioner Griffin is absent, Commissioner Stevens,
Here.
Commissioner Trezza. Vice Chairman Sawyer is running late, Chairman Atwater.
Present.
We do have 5 commissioners present, it does constitute a quorum.
Okay, good. Okay, addressing the consent calendar. Are there any items on the consent calendar that need to be considered separately today?
I would like to ask just a few questions about C to under. Yeah,
Okay?
yeah. You want to ask them now, or should I? Yeah,
Go ahead.
For expediency, why don't we do
Rhonda, do
them,
you want to go and just?
why don't we ask them now?
yeah. So I saw on there that it has nothing to do with our tenants, and can you just explain, just give a little bit more background on why that's different than,
Yeah, it's not part of the utility, because it's on the east complex, and
Yeah.
we are actually
We are an electricity user over there. So personally, we opted out a few years ago of direct purchases from PG&E, and we purchased from Calpine at a 10 to 20% discount.
okay, so this is just us. This is
It's us saving,
I got that part,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to understand why we wouldn't do it on other stuff, but it's been, our tenants can't do the same, or tenants buy everything else from us?
that's a
otherwise?
completely separate, yeah, the tenants have to purchase power from us on the east. Sorry, the tenants on the east complex go directly to PG&E. The tenants on the west complex are part of the port-owned public utility, and they would go through the ports and purchase their power
Okay,
directly
and
from the
we
port.
cannot supply anybody on the east?
No.
And why is that? Is that a legal thing, or
Yeah,
is that?
because that, we have our territory that we cover under the utility district is for the west complex. It's not for the east complex. So we're like everyone else on the east complex.
Okay.
And they've chosen to go to an alternate provider than PG&E.
Right, no, okay, I got that. And we can't expand that? We can't do that?
I did not research that, but
Huh?
I'm sure you could.
Okay.
If that was the direction of the commission, we could
Okay,
proceed
just,
to try to
uh-huh.
increase the service area.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
certainly do that if you.
okay. I'd like to just understand if we can, if we're gonna
We'll
start
look into
looking
that.
at.
Look into that.
Since I've been here, we haven't really thought about it.
Yeah,
but
it just came up because we owned the infrastructure and needed to, on the west complex, when we took over the infrastructure, and PG&E was going to charge us to actually take over the infrastructure.
Okay, but they own it on the east side, or?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I'd just like to understand that if we can do that. That's it, thank you.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Okay, I'd like a motion and a
Oh,
second.
I have public comments that I need to read as part of,
Excuse me?
for consent calendar, item C from Mary Elizabeth. As it is on, I want to ask a question as you consider the Calpine contract for energy. Has the Port of Stockton considered using AVA Community Energy? There's a lot of unspecified power for the Port of Stockton under Calpine supply. The city of Stockton, Tracy, and Lathrop have entered into community choice contracts for power with AVA Community Energy. Perhaps this is something that the port might like to consider in the future. Also, please provide the community with the open market entities used by Calpine. We are concerned with air quality impacts associated with biomass combustion here and elsewhere, as well as greenhouse emissions which affect our global climate. DTE, our biggest stationary source of air pollution in Stockton and located on Port of Stockton land, burns biomass which is eligible for renewable credits under existing regulations. Thank you. Those are all the public comments I have for that item.
Okay,
Any other public comments from the audience?
okay, time for yes,
Second.
second from Teresa. All in favor of approval of the consent calendar?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay. Item 5, public hearing, consideration possible approval, adopt a resolution which if approval will constitute a resolution of eminent domain proceedings. Presentation on item 5?
Yeah, Rhonda will take this one. Second, okay.
Afternoon. Let me make sure this works. Yep. All right. Today we have under consideration a potential slope easement acquisition for a slope easement that's located directly east of the port boundary. We've got the west complex and the east complex, and if you look at the blue line with the yellow right there, we'll go in there. This, that's the general location. We'll have a closer map when we get there. As part of long-term planning efforts to improve rail infrastructure and prepare for future growth, the Port of Stockton Replacement Bridge and Rail Improvements Project Initial Study Mitigated Negative Declaration, ISMND, was adopted 9/21/2021. We call it the Rail Infrastructure Project. Grant funding has been received from CalSTA's Port and Freight Infrastructure Program, also known as PFIP, in the amount of $44.044 million. Engineering and design is underway with construction anticipated in 2026. As part of the rail improvement projects, the port must acquire rights-of-way and slope easements from 2 private property owners. NorCal Materials, Inc., that purchase is authorized and closing in process. And the second is M&L Refrigerated Terminal, Inc., that one remains pending. We need 2 slope easements totaling approximately .061 acres, that's 2,643 square feet, required from M&L's property that's located at 2505 West Washington Street, immediately adjacent to the rail alignment. The property is one of just a handful of private properties that receive rail deliveries from port-owned tracks. This is an overall site plan that shows the redesigned rail area, and the easements are in purple. I will go on the next slide. You'll be able to see it a little closer. This is the carve-out there. They're on the one easement for a slope maintenance would require, out of the 2,600 feet, it goes across 2 parcels, and it's the area shown there in purple. That's the legal drawing. Port real estate staff and right-of-way consultant, which is Monument Right-of-Way, have maintained ongoing coordination with M&L regarding the rail infrastructure project. Project plans were revised in May 2025 after coordination with our rail engineers and M&L rail engineers to minimize impacts to the property. At that time, the potential taking went from about $100,000 to about less than a fifth of that to just the slope easement. A revised appraisal-based offer of $17.4 thousand was transmitted to M&L on September 5th, 2025, supported by an updated 2025 appraisal. The offer complies with federal and state requirements governing just compensation and public acquisition procedures. M&L was advised of its rights to obtain an independent appraisal with port reimbursement up to $5,000. M&L has not, as of December 12th, 2025, responded to the offer with acceptance, rejection, counter, or appraisal notice. M&L Council has indicated that there will be a response. Project schedule now requires the consideration of proceeding with a resolution of necessity. Staff recommends that the board adopt a resolution which, if approved, will constitute a resolution of necessity and authorize the port director to initiate eminent domain proceedings in accordance with California Code of Civil Procedure 1245.210 at SEEK to acquire slope easements totaling approximately .061 acres, plus or minus 2,643 square feet, held by M&L Refrigerated Terminal Properties, Inc., located on assessor's parcel numbers 145040-01 and 145030-03. Thank you, and I'll open it up to questions.
What was the date where we offered the 5,000 appraisal?
We submitted two offers, but one was revised down because of the revised
When was
plans. September, let's see,
September?
September 5th, 2025.
All right, and what are the dimensions of this easement? Is it like 200 by 10 or what? what would it look like?
We've got 15 feet by, I don't know, but it's it's total, they total of 2,600 square feet, so they're 1,300 square feet. They are very, very small. And it's not, nothing's going to be developed on there, it's just that the slope would need to be retained to support rail. Prior to that, there'd been a slight impediment to the easement, and the taking was larger.
Bill, there, it
Potential.
looks like they're 15 feet by 86 and then 15 by 92 feet.
Yeah, that's right, you've got the,
Mr. Chairman, could I just, a little bit of a supplement to that is to point out to you that originally the taking was going to be larger, and the port met extensively with the landowner and reduced it to what you currently see as the take. It shrunk dramatically. And I will say that from my experience, that normally doesn't happen, that the staff went to such an effort to redesign part of its project to reduce the take to the maximum extent possible. And we received correspondence from the landowner saying that this would not interfere with their operations.
Any other comments from the commission or questions for Rhonda?
We've heard nothing from them in terms of an offer? We've never gotten,
we've heard that there was the potential that there might be some requests, and we've heard that there was potential that there might be some additional thought of a conflict, but we also had heard that we had revised it out, so we don't know.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Are there any public comments on this agenda item? Okay, on behalf of the Port of Stockton, Port District Board and Commissioners, may I take this opportunity to mention the Commission welcomes any member public to speak during board meetings. Public comments should be directed to the chairman of the board, that's me, and should be related to the items that fall within the jurisdiction of the port, and this item is requested by the speakers identify themselves by name. There are forms provided at the podium to fill out. And as is customary, also each speaker will be given 3 minutes for comments. As a courtesy, at 2 minutes, the speaker will be advised of a 1-minute warning. Please.
I just want to say good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. And my name is Mike Hackney, one of the directors for M&L Commodities at the Port of Stockton here. Just thank you for serving on this commission and giving your time up to the port. And also want to thank the port staff. We feel we have a pretty good relationship with them. I know this is taking a lot longer than we all expected, and our apologies, but we do want to see this happen. We don't want to stop anything. We just want to make sure that there's some language clarification on this thing. Don't want to take too much time here, but we've had meetings with the port to discuss the project at hand. We've had our council talk with the Port Council a few times, just letting them know that we are discussing this and that we are moving forward with it. We believe we have a solution, basis on what we hope is a resolution. And it's just some clarifying language within the easement. It was kind of vague, and we just want to make sure that there's clarifying language that we originally agreed to or talked about within the meetings. And that's pretty much, and otherwise we feel very confident for this thing to move forward with no further challenges or issues. We ask that there be maybe a delay or a continuance on this vote, and to make sure that our councils can just complete it together with each other. Furthermore, if we can work it out, it would greatly reduce the payment and maybe potentially reduce substantial severance. And this will allow both parties to move forward with plans and construction with little to no disruption. So that's basically all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much.
Do I need to fill this out here?
if you want, it's fine.
I mean, can I ask a question? How much time do you want?
We've sent something already to Steve Harrim. It was today. I don't know if he received it or not, but I do have copies here if anybody wants a copy to see what I don't know if you've seen it or sent, or, because I know our council sent it this afternoon, so. don't know if
Okay, you can
anybody
leave them
else
on the end of the table here.
has- Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Okay, any other speakers or comments on this?
I'd like to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name's Steve Larson. Can I come up to the mic, or?
Yes, you can, please.
Thank you.
Identify yourself.
My name's Stephen Larson, S-T-P-H-E-N, Larson, L-A-R-S-O-N. I know a lot of you, Mike, from I was the executive director of cerebral palsy for many years, and that's when I knew you. You were one of our board of commissioners, or one of our board of directors. Let me just say that I've been here for 20 years, and I have never ever seen an eminent takeover of any property of any kind, whether it's an easement, whether it's a rail. And what's happening now, and I think that the public should know, be honest with you, is that there's been a mismanagement of the grant. It's now coming to an end. The money has to be spent. And now we're realizing that we never had a right of way to begin with. So whenever you write a grant, whenever you submit a grant, you have a right of way permission. You do it I've been doing this for 30 years, but I've been doing it for Port of Stockton for 20 years. So every grant that you write, you have a right of way agreement before you even submit the grant. Never happened. So now the board's looking at this going, wait a minute. We don't have a right of way? But the money is going to expire. So now we're going to force them. We're going to make them comply. We're going to do eminent domain over their property, whether it's an easement or not. It's a last minute adjustment. And by the way, I wrote the original grant to go over. I mean, I'm the one that wrote the grant. So what happened is they did an engineering design. They rewrote the grant. They rewrote how it's going to be designed. And not that it doesn't make sense. I'm not saying that.
1 minute.
And so what's happening now is you're forcing an agency to give you their land. And by the way, on the Port of Stockton, that's really unusual, because the Port of Stockton typically owns all of the land. There's very few agencies that actually are private owners of property at the port. Very few. I think you can name 4. This is one of them. They own this land, they've invested in this land, and you're telling them that you're going to take it over if they don't like what you're going to pay them. And I'm going to finish on this. I wrote many grants for the Port of Stockton where we used an in-kind match. Every acre in 2012 was $150,000 in 2012. I'll finish on this. And you're going to offer somebody $17,000? And by the way, I have no business with this company. I'm doing no business with M&L Commodities, none. I just heard about this and thought this was absolutely wrong to do that. So I'll finish on that. Thank you very much for your time.
I just, one point of clarification, this is not last minute. We've been working on this for 2 years, trying to get an agreement here, so it's not last minute.
Any other comments or questions?
Was there an actual, I know there was a question that was asked, how much time they're asking for. Did we ever get a direct answer to that?
No.
So,
Everything's been more.
And the factual predicate of that request is troubling. It was mentioned that there have been discussions between the property owner's attorneys and the port attorney. And let me just make clear that the most recent ones is maybe 5, 6 weeks ago. Their local attorney called me and said they had a map to show that there was now a conflict between the take and their future plans. And I received nothing. I was supposed to get a map that week and didn't. And about 2.5 weeks later, he called again and said, well, the map didn't make any sense. I had them redo it. I'm about ready to send it to you. As of today, I've never gotten a map. And then today I got a call and saying, oh, we can work this out. We're going to submit a settlement agreement to you today, right away, so you can look at it and we can try to take care of this. And when I left my office to come here today, I'd received nothing from them. And that is sort of the course of conduct with this landowner throughout the last few years.
What time was that?
What
time was that you left your office?
left my office at about 2:40.
Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing at this time on this item.
The one I would emphasize is, as Rhonda said, this is a matter that needs a 2/3 vote. So for this motion to pass, you need 5 affirmative votes.
Right, and I have a question. I mean, nothing stops us from continuing to negotiate if we approve this.
I made a commitment to
Right,
his
it's not-
local attorney that even though we are going to proceed with condemnation, that we would continue to settle, and it's been my experience in condemnation matters that the vast majority of them settle short of a full trial. You kind of get into it, but invariably you're talking about what's the value, and you end up settling that question. And most, not all, but most condemnation matters end up settling. And that's very typically how it occurs.
Okay, so I want to piggyback on that. So if we do vote, if there's positive, we move forward, someone's still going to take the time to read that, right?
Oh, yeah, you would, everyone will have failed if we go to a jury trial on .06 acres of an easement
Right.
for $17,000.
Yeah.
That's a failure on everyone's part. So yes, we have already committed to the other side that we would continue to work with them on trying to settle this thing, so that we do not have to go the full litigation route.
One little brief comment from me. At $175,000 an acre, that would be $10,600. We're offering over $17,000.
Yeah.
So it's well above the previous, it's well above Mr. Larson's comments about, what the value of property is here.
Right, and on top of that, it's an easement. We're not taking any property. It's
Yes,
an
we're not
easement.
taking, we're just have an access easement.
Yeah, and so there's
So,
2 caveats there.
yes, there are. Okay, is there a motion?
I have one question. How long will a condemnation normally take?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. because
2 weeks, a
It depends
month?
on, well, no, it'll take more than 2 weeks. It's, you will file, and then you have a period of time where the other side can answer. And then you have a question of whether there's going to be a challenge to the right to take, which will not probably happen in this case because they have not said what they had to at this hearing. And then it depends on how much discovery you're going to have on what is the value. I can't imagine that would take a lot of discovery on an easement that small of what expert is going to testify on what of the value. And then it's a matter of when do you get a jury trial, because you're entitled to a jury trial, and generally the property owner always asks for a jury trial. And right now, jury trials are getting set back 2.5 to 3 years. But there's an unusual provision in the condemnation law which indicates that we can take the property by depositing the amount that we think it is worth, which is $17,000 with the court, and then we can go out and construct the property while we're arguing about what the value of the take is. So really what you're arguing about is what is the value of what the government took. But we could be using that property while that issue is being determined in the court process.
It'd be very expensive to go through that elongated process. It'd be a lot more than $17,000
Or
to go through that legal protract.
Again, if
Way
we end
more.
up, if we end up in a trial over this, everyone should be shocked.
It's just evaluation.
It's just a valuation question, and I'm gonna tell you, you can practice in this area till the cows come home, but invariably what a jury does, this will really shock you, they split the difference between the two sides. Almost invariably, that's what happens, so I can almost predict what the amount is going to be. If both sides come in with fairly reasonable offers, the jury ends up splitting it. So that's why they often settle, because everyone knows where you're gonna end up.
And I have a qualifying question too, also. We're giving the port director the right to initiate eminent domain.
Yes.
That doesn't mean, it doesn't mean you're working on it tomorrow.
Actually,
Right.
it means it's already prepared. We would be prepared to file it tomorrow. We've already, we were instructed to prepare the complaint. The complaint is already prepared.
Okay,
But the negotiation can still on the settlement can still happen during that.
Absolutely.
okay. That's why I was asking whether or not we'd at least gotten an offer, or whether or not, it'd be interesting to know how much time, to Margaret's point, how much time they actually wanted. Because it doesn't make sense for either side to really start engaging
Well-
with lawyers, but obviously, we've been waiting
Yeah.
3 months to get a response, and now here we get the
Well, we waited
response
really-
right before we're about to file this. So I get the
I
fact
assume
that
we're
we-
gonna get a response.
Yeah. we
Um,
haven't-
and certainly, your port director can either authorize it to file it tomorrow, or we can, if this letter does come in, he can look at it and say, let's hold up filing and let's talk to them first. You're giving him the discretion to use his judgment of whether to aggressively prosecute the case.
Right.
Or to sit back and say, well, let's meet first, and
Right.
that will be his decision.
That's fair. Yeah, okay.
Okay, is there a motion to
Make
approve?
the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Margaret seconded. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There being none, we're moving on to the next item. Are there any committee reports this season? We haven't had any committees working, so,
The ad hoc bud audit's the next one.
Audit is the next one.
So can I ask about that?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that too.
audit committee discussion.
Talk to him.
Is that new, or like people being moved around?
No,
It's
no, we
beginning of
have,
year?
we have an audit committee each year,
Okay,
because we have an audit each year,
right.
so,
So it's not, people don't stay on the same audit committee?
no, we don't, no, we try and rotate it so everybody gets broader experience and thinks
Okay.
and grows a little bit, and you learn a little bit about what's going on fiscally, a little bit more fiscally, because we've all participated in just all kinds of committees and actions, so, yeah.
Okay.
It's actually the audit committee, it can get a little deep at times, but you'll see some things and you'll be able to ask questions. And boy, I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense. And that's the things that really are important when you're on an audit committee is to delve into the function of the port and how the port has handled its accounting.
And the auditors are present during, or
Yeah, the auditors are present.
I always thought the bankers were really good on the audit committees.
No, I prefer to have a mixed committee, keep the bankers and lawyers at bay as much as you can.
Bankers are on a lot of committees.
Obviously never borrows.
Okay, moving right along. Port director's comments.
I have a few things. So we have two new hires that are here today. The first one is our manager of risk, Nathan Burtwhistle. Back over here if you wanted to say hi.
Who?
That's what I'm, oh, up here.
Feel the heat.
I just want to say I have worked in quite a few locations. I've been a teacher, I've been in environmental, I've been a chemist, and I've worked for 2 other public agencies, and this is one of the warmest welcomes I've received, so I'm very excited to be here.
Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you. Welcome.
And second is our chief of police, Josh Dobernick.
Good afternoon. My name is Josh Drobnik, your new chief of police. My law enforcement career began in 1997 with the U.S. Air Force in Charleston, South Carolina, as a military working dog handler. When I separated as an E4 senior airman, 2 months later, I was working for the Stockton Police Department, where I spent almost 28 years, retiring as the assistant chief of police. That was back in December. Since that time, I've done background, some other things, and then I've been here since Monday. And I agree with Mr. Burtwhistle, a very warm welcome, very accommodating. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Josh.
Welcome. Great.
Okay, we have 3 retirements. I believe only one is here. I'll read Jeff's first. So Jeff Vine is retiring on January 2nd, 2026, after 24 years of service at the port. He's been emergency management and safety officer. Prior to joining the port, Jeff worked on-site for a port tenant for 14 years. He began his official career as a Port of Stockton employee on August 20th, 2001 as a warehouse and terminal assistant superintendent. In August 2009, he became the warehouse and terminal assistant superintendent and safety officer and elevated to superintendent level in 2013. Finally, in January 2018, his role evolved into the position he holds today as emergency management and safety officer. So we've been fortunate to have him as committed employee for all these years, and we wish him all the best in his retirement. Also, we have retiring January 2nd. I think they're all going to be January 2nd. Yeah. Pete Grosskart. Prior to joining the port, Pete was no stranger to the maritime industry. He joined the port on September 30th, 2015 as maritime marketing manager. And after 10 years of dedicated service, we announced his retirement, as I said, January 2nd. We're grateful for his dedication as well, and he will be sorely missed. And our third, which makes sense, is our chief of police, our former chief of police, Rick Salcedo. After 7.5 years of dedicated service, he announced his retirement, and that will be on January 2nd, 2026. He was hired as police captain in June of 2018 with a plan to replace the retiring director of Homeland Security, George Lerner. Upon George Lerner's retirement in November of 2018, Rick was promoted to chief and has remained at this leadership helm throughout his time with the port. During his tenure, he had significant impact on police operations, including the accomplishment of the Port Police Department becoming a post-certified agency through his leadership. So again, we are going to miss him and are very thankful for his service.
Yes, we are.
And then finally, something we decided to do this year is for members of the Port family who have passed away. We decided to donate to the Hospice of San Joaquin in their honor every year, and we had 4 this year, unfortunately. Former Commissioner Victor Mao, former Commissioner Liz Blanchard, Steve Nichols, and then the son of Commissioner Griffin, Stephen Ronald Griffin. So, okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Commission comments? Any commission comments this afternoon?
Just wish everyone a safe and peaceful holiday.
Merry Christmas, yes.
There you go. I have a comment for the new risk manager. Having done risk management in my company, risk management is very broad. I don't know what your exact job description is, but you'll be involved in everything from safety and insurance and working with the chief. It's risk management's all over the place, especially at a port. Just like a diverse company like my own, it's a big deal, and you can have a tremendous impact. So welcome aboard. Yeah, Chief, got a lot of experience. Keep it professional here. No, it's been professional. We want to keep it that way.
Absolutely.
And it's really good. We want to keep working with our local agencies, the sheriff and PD. As you know, you have some experience with the PD. We want to keep close with all those agencies because we support law enforcement in this port, in this city, and this county. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Okay, public comments on non-agenda items. Are there any today?
Yes.
Yes.
From Mary Elizabeth. The Delta Sierra Group with the Mother Lode chapter of the Sierra Club has over 600 members throughout San Joaquin County, many of which reside in the city of Stockton, which is directly affected by the Port of Stockton operations. I submitted some comments to you at your last meeting on November and received this informative response, which she provided to others. I'm not going to read it. It's part of this, which you've already received, and will be on the website as well. We appreciate the update on the port's involvement with golden mussel impacts, and we support efforts made by the Port of Stockton to strengthen communication efforts to educate shippers and staff about state and federal ballast water requirements. We look forward to hopefully good news for the community if the fires, intakes, and aeration devices are unimpeded with golden mussels. The term I used was tipping fees because when I heard about the program, that was the term that was used to mean some fee to pay for mitigation. The Port of Long Beach uses the term clean truck fund rate, and information can be found on the Port of Long Beach Clean Trucks webpage. Regarding truck traffic at the Port of Stockton, we understand back in 2024 that the port was planning on commissioning their transportation planning consultant firm to perform a study to characterize the truck visits to the port related to CARB's Advanced Clean Fleet Drayage regulations. CARB repealed the drayage requirements at their September 25 meeting, and we are wondering if that truck study is complete, as the data from that truck study should be included when considering the cumulative impacts of trucking-related developments that the port will be considering. Diesel exhaust is toxic, and the existing CARB's Clean Truck Check program is designed to decrease emissions by checking exhaust emissions as a measure of accountability. Recently, I observed a CARB commercial reminding the trucking industry about the requirements of the regulation. Port monitoring of truck compliance as an applicable freight facility will help get polluting trucks out of our neighborhoods. According to CARB's Clean Truck webpage, applicable freight facilities requirements include either ensure that only compliant vehicles enter and operate on their property by verifying each vehicle at the time of entry, by requesting a valid compliance certificate, or by confirming through data provided by CARB, or maintain applicable records of all vehicles that enter the applicable freight facility property that are not compliant with Clean Truck Check. These requirements do not apply when vehicles entering their properties are delivering goods or providing services to the facility as the consumer of the goods or services. Thank you for your continued commitment to improve public outreach and communication and air quality for residents and workers. Thank you for your consideration of Delta Sierra Group's comments. You may contact me at her email. And that's all I have.
No other public comments? Okay, we're going to enter into closed session in accordance with the Ralph M. Brown Act. An executive session will be conducted pursuant to Government Code 54956.8.
In 1845, when Charles Weber acquired a 49,000-acre parcel from his luckless business partner in exchange for paying off his grocery bill, he couldn't have anticipated what awaited him 3 years later.
During the gold rush, Argonauts could come to Stockton en route to what were known as the Southern Mines. But the principal artery for transportation and the fastest way to travel was via water.
There was no Stockton in those early days. There was Charles Weber's tent town on the San Joaquin River that served as a jumping-off point for the gold fields.
He realized that the San Joaquin River was going to be the principal aid in developing his city, and Charles Weber was able to attract enough business people to establish hotels and restaurants and freight companies, and they would cater to the wants and needs of the miners. Those who did not make their fortune, in many instances, had been farmers in their previous lives. And coming back into Stockton or Sacramento, took a look around the Central Valley and realized there was great agricultural potential.
in San Joaquin County, this is the most productive agricultural area really in the world. You grow corn, wheat, almonds, walnuts, fruit, a whole host of different commodities feeding the world. You couldn't have the unique agricultural environment we have without the river. That is what allowed this state to turn from a gold mining state, if you will, to a food state.
California's Central Valley is blessed with the best soil there is. Back then, the problem was less about growing the food than it was getting it to market. Without a statewide railroad system or even decent roads, Stockton was in a strategic position to be a hub, connecting the valley by river to San Francisco.
From gold rush days, riverboats carried passengers and cargo on a daily basis between Stockton, Sacramento, and San Francisco.
With the Central Pacific Railroad's completion of a branch line in 1869, connecting Stockton with the Transcontinental Railroad, the city's vision as a trade and transportation hub began to materialize, except for one critical issue.
There were rather tortuous waterways leading from San Francisco to Stockton, weaving and turning through the islands. And because of hydraulic mining, there was a lot of sedimentation of these river areas, and so it was becoming rather shallow.
In addition, ships were getting larger with deeper drafts, leaving the river's shallow depth a barrier to ocean-going vessels. If the region was going to grow with the times, it had to tame the twisting passage through the delta. Even though no single individual gets credit for proposing a dredged shipping channel, it was Lieutenant Colonel Barton Stone Alexander who drew up the plan in 1870 that showed it was feasible.
They kind of choked at the projected $8 million price tag of such a ship canal. And so it continued to be a festering problem for the city of Stockton, being cut off from that ocean-going transportation.
Other countries hungered for California products, not just grains, nuts, and cotton, but manufactured goods too. The opportunity for trade was undeniable.
When a product moves and how it moves is all dependent on where the destination is. The ship behind me is actually loading rice that's going to Japan. Rice would not be able to get to Japan if it didn't use port facilities, because it doesn't make economic sense to ship the kind of tonnage that one ship can hold in another way, like, say, maybe in an aircraft.
Stockton's residents remained convinced their future lay in a navigable ship channel. So in 1925, they passed a $3 million bond toward its construction. The state and feds later added more funds that finally set the project in motion. Work began in 1930. Dredges began removing millions of cubic yards of river bottom. Clamshell dredges piled the mud and rock to make levees that formed the new channel, opening acres of delta islands for farmland. Despite the Great Depression and Hitler's rise in Germany, in Stockton, church bells rang and automobile horns blared. It was 1933, and more than 1,000 people celebrated the arrival of the Daisy Gray, the first deep draft vessel to arrive at Stockton's new port using the new channel. It was the start of a new era.
The local responsibility was to develop the facilities. So they developed the docks, the warehousing, the rail connection, many of which we're actually still using today. In my opinion, rail facilities are just as important to the success of a port as a dock.
Central California Traction Company has been in business for more than 100 years. We are a small railroad that basically does all the railroad switching on the Port of Stockton, and we're going all day long. We get rail cars from two major railroads, Burlington Northern and Union Pacific. And we get those cars, separate them all out, take them to the customers, let them unload them or load them, and then take them back and give them to those Class 1 railroads. The port is a busy place, and they've got ships coming in, they've got trucks coming in, and if we didn't have the railroad here, you wouldn't be able to get enough trucks in over the road infrastructure that they have.
When the United States mobilized to fight in World War II, Stockton's port facility became an integral part of the war effort. The United States Army took over the Port of Stockton, and it became the largest vehicle and parts consignment center in the entire United States. The harbor overflowed with 10,000 workers, loading merchant vessels and assembling as many as 125 ships for the war effort, from tugs to minesweepers.
In 1944, the United States Navy took over what was known as Rough and Ready Island and turned it into a naval complex. And the Navy held on to this area up until the year 2000, when Rough and Ready Island and all of its developments were turned over to the Port of Stockton.
Rough and Ready Island tripled the size of the port overnight. It added warehousing and open land that the Port of Stockton never had before. The acquisition really helped us to be able to provide additional space for tenants to develop their own projects.
Yara North America chose this location for its central location in the valley. We were able to lease a piece of the land here and build this facility and move our operation from another location that was less profitable and less convenient, so to speak. Keeps us competitive, keeps our costs down, and keeps us profitable, which is really what we're all about.
The presence of global companies reflects the port's role in world commerce. Cargo crossing the docks has grown 176% in less than 10 years, making the Port of Stockton the fourth busiest port in California.
I've seen the port get extremely busy. I was working when there would be maybe one ship every 2-3 weeks. Now we have 2-3 ships every day coming in. It's just booming.
While the port is responsive to world markets and international trade trends, it's also tied to the local community with a responsibility to its neighbors.
Today, the port supports more than 10,000 jobs, what I like to call family wage jobs, to become a major part of the economic foundation of Stockton and the greater San Joaquin County area. The port actually makes a major contribution through tax revenues that go into every facet of every service that's provided by the city of Stockton or San Joaquin County.
The port absolutely is part of the community. The waterway is not just only our ship channel. It is part of the Delta, it is part of the Pacific Flyway, it is a recreation area, it is a fishery. One of the latest commitments the port has made is we have joined the Green Marine program. It looks at how ports and how maritime operations are being handled to reduce your impacts on the environment. At Antioch Dunes National Wildlife Refuge, we are working to restore the habitat for 3 species by placing sand material that comes out of our dredging each year. It's been an extremely successful project. The owls were here when we took over Rough and Ready. You know, the rodents like to burrow holes in our levees, and we use the owls, the Air Force, if you want to call them, to come in and reduce the rodent population. This wonderful group, Puentes, came to us, and they wanted to develop a community garden. And we thought it was a wonderful idea.
We belong to a church in Sacramento, and a lot of the people are elderly and are really in need. So we thought once we start harvesting, we'll go and bless people so that way the people that can't get out, they'll have their fresh veggies delivered right to them. The power of one little seed to help people live more sustainable lives. Yeah, that's our goal.
It could be asked, What's a maritime port got to do with community gardening? Or saving endangered species? Or running a tiny...
Okay? Okay, we're coming out of closed session. The Port Commission took no formal reportable action during the closed session. Anything else? Meeting adjourned.